This is the second video on Norman Lindsay's cartoon art. I wanted to point out that as we get to the end stages of his art, we see a lot more women, and if he had focused on this, because he was famous for his women, I think his cartooning would have had more renown and be considered more original, because his women were original. One thing that's very worthwhile noting is that Lindsay had a major effect on the cartoonist Roy Krenkel, and through Krenkel the effect became apparent on Frank Frazetta and Al Williamson. You can see that Lindsay's women, his cartoon women, are not waifs, which was common at the time, but more fulsome women, and this is what we see definitely in Roy Krenkel, who was accused even of being obsessed and a bit of a stalker of Norman Lindsay. And you can see here, for instance, where Frazetta would have gotten some inspiration. But what's disturbing, but also very much part of its time, is the inherent racism that's embedded in Norman Lindsay's work. Now, Norman Lindsay would say, I think, that he was not responsible for the narratives, and that's true. Someone else would write the comic byline. So this says, "What's the matter, Jakey? Stomach ache?" And the response is, "No, boss, bellyache." And Norman Lindsay would just copy a cartoon or create a cartoon that would fit with the caption. I think that's a poor excuse, though, to his racism, which is really just disturbingly evident throughout. It shows a lack of, in my opinion, intelligence of Norman Lindsay. He was just really not a very thoughtful or self-aware person. This one says, "Come on, Gandhi, fight it out like a white man." So we've got the double racism here. Now, Lindsay might say he was reflecting the period of the time, but when you're dealing with humor, humor is not illustration. Humor is supposed to give insights, and apparently this is something Norman Lindsay would have found funny, or else he wouldn't have drawn it. And the way he drew the characters with exaggerated features just brings home the disturbing racism that was so prevalent at the time. Nonetheless, it carries no value today. But the women of Lindsay, they hold up, and unfortunately he really didn't do a lot of them. His cartooning petered out by the time he got into his phase of drawing women. But there you have it, Norman Lindsay's cartoons.